Hello, welcome to Prejim Technologies. I am Venkat. This is part 84 of ASP.NET video series. In part 82 of this video series, we discussed the basics of application pools, and in part 83, we discussed about achieving applications isolation using application pools. In this session, we're going to discuss about configuring different levels of security for different application pools. Let's understand that with an example. First, I'm going to create within C drive. I have this data folder, and within this folder I'm going to create a new text document. Let's change the name of this one to application 1 data. I'm going to change the extension from txt to .xml. Okay, change that. Open that with Notepad. So open with Notepad, and let's copy the XML that I have. If you look at this, it's some countries data where we have country ID, name, and the continent to which it belongs. I have 4 countries there, so I'm going to copy that and paste that into that application 1data.xml. Save it, close the file, and then let's go back to this data folder, make a copy of this file, and rename that to application 2data.xml. So if you look at this, both of the files has got the same data. It's just that I have 2 files, with application 1 data.xml and application 2 data.xml. Okay, now let's flip to Visual Studio. Now here I have an ASP.NET web application project with name web application 1, and on this web form I have a grid view control, a file upload control, and a button control. The text on the button is read data, and label control here. Okay, so let me double click this button control. Now look at this. On the page load, what we are doing, we are printing the name of the vendor's identity that is used to execute this application code. Okay, and to do that, we are using the vendor's identity class that's present in system.security.principal namespace. Okay, alright, so now what we want to do now, when we run this application, I will be able to select a file using this file upload control, either this file or this file, and then when we actually click the read data button, we should read the data from the respective XML files and display that within the grid view control. Let's see how to do that. Okay, so the ID of the file upload control is file upload 1. If that has file, that's going to return true. This has file is a boolean property. It will return true if it has a file. Else, if we don't have a file, then in the label control we want to show a message to the user saying please select a file first. Please select a file first. Okay, and then if the user has selected a file, then what we want to do, we want to create a data set. And by the way, the data set is present in system.data namespace, so we have imported that. So let's say data set ds is equal to new data set, and let's use the read XML method to read the XML data from that folder. So ds.read XML, and I'm going to give the absolute path here, c:\\\, and the folder name is data, so \\\, and to that path we are going to append the file name, so file upload 1 dot file name. So we will get the file name from the file upload control. So after we read the data into the data set, we are going to set that as the data source for the grid view control. So grid view 1.data source is equal to data set, and finally invoke the data bind method. Okay, and then we are going to set the label 1.text to empty, just in case if there is anything within the label we want to wipe that out. Okay, so very simple code. Let's go ahead and run that, but before that let's configure a virtual directory within IIS. Okay, and the easiest way to do that is to go to this web application project, go to the properties, and then within the web tab, instead of using the Visual Studio built-in development server, I'm going to use a local IIS server, and then click create virtual directory. So within IIS, this should create a virtual directory with name web application 1. Okay, open IIS, and to do that click on start, type run, and within the run window type inetmgr, and then click OK. So that should open up IIS, and within IIS, within this default websites folder, refresh that, we should see an application created. Okay, now let's go ahead and create an application pool first. Okay, so these are the built-in application pools. Let me add an application pool, and I'm going to call this application 1 pool. And let's select the .NET Framework version as 4.0. Click OK. So we have application 1 pool there, and it doesn't have any applications at the moment. So we want to associate this application with that application pool. And how do we do that? Right click on the application, manage application, advanced settings, and here we have the application pool. Click on the ellipsis button, and from the drop down list select the application 1 pool. So that's it. So we have associated now this web application 1 with application 1 pool. Okay, now let's go to web application 2. So I have another web application 2 project created here. On this web form I have the same set of controls, and when I click this button control, let's change the text basically to press F4 and change the text to read data, and then empty the text property of this label control. Okay, so this application is also going to do essentially the same thing. So I'm actually going to copy the code from here and paste it in web application 2. So we have two applications doing the same thing. Okay, so data set is present in system.data namespace. So let's go ahead and import that. So system.data. Okay, so I have web application 2 and web application 1 doing exactly the same thing. Okay, and we have two files here, application1 data.xml and application2 data.xml. Now within IIS, let's go ahead and create another application pool with name application2 pool. So add application pool, and I'm going to call this application 2 pool, and let's select .NET Framework version 4.0. Okay, so we have two application pools, and let's create an application within IIS. And to do that, we can do that directly from Visual Studio as well. So let's go to the properties of the web application project, and within the properties, go to the web tab. I'm going to select use local IIS web server, click on create virtual directory. This should automatically create the virtual directory within IIS. Refresh the default website folder there, and we should see web application 2, and we want to associate this to this application 2 pool. At the moment there are no applications, you can see that's 0 at the moment, but we want to associate web application 2 with application 2 pool. And to do that, right click on that, select manage application, go to advanced settings, and we can change the application pool by clicking on this ellipsis button. From there, select application 2 pool. Okay, so I hope you understand the setup at the moment. At the moment we have two web application projects, web application 1 and web application 2. And these two web applications are deployed to IIS, and within IIS I have two virtual directories here. And these two applications are mapped to the application pools here. So web application 1, which is pointing to web application 1 on the hard disk, is now mapped to application 1 pool, and web application 2 is mapped to application 2 pool. Now let's run one of the applications. Okay, let's run web application 1. So when we run this, we should be able to select the file from the file upload control. So no file chosen at the moment, choose file, and from C data I'm going to select application 1 data, click on read XML. So it's using okay, by the way, look at what's this doing. This is still running off the built-in Visual Studio. We don't want that. We want it to use the local IIS. So save the settings. We haven't saved, that's why it was using the Visual Studio built-in. So press Ctrl F5, so the application should run. And once it loads up, let's select a file, application1 data.xml, read data. So we have read the data and displayed it. And look at the identity. It's using application 1 pool, IIS app pool / application 1 pool. Now let me select application 2 data file and click on read data. Look at that. I again get, basically web application 1 is able to select both application 1 data.xml as well as application 2 data.xml. And along the same lines, if I run web application 2, it is also going to be able to select both of the files. it also reads data from both of the files. Now I don't want that. Web application 1 should be able to access only application1.data, application1 data.xml, and web application 2 should be able to access only application2 data.xml. Web application 1 shouldn't be able to access application2 data.xml. Okay, so look at that. Application 2, it's able to read data from application 1 data, and I can do that with 2 data as well. Okay, so basically I want to prevent that. Web application 1 access only this file, web application 2 access only this file. If web application 2 tries to access this file, we should throw an exception. Let's see how to do that. Okay, now the most important thing to notice here, look at that. Web application 2 is running using the application 2 pool identity, and web application 1 is running using application 1 pool identity. So that's the key to solving this problem. So obviously what we do, we will set security to this Windows identity account. So I go to the file system here, I select application1 data.xml. At the moment, by default, this file is accessible by both the accounts. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to right click on that. Okay, let's go here, copy the name of the account from here. So that's the name of the account or the Windows identity that is used to execute the application code. So what I'm going to do, so that is IIS application 1 pool. So web application 1 should have access only to application 1 data.xml. It shouldn't be able to access application 2 data.xml. So I right click on that, go to properties, and within the security tab, I'm going to edit that, add, and within this window, paste the account name and click on check names. Look at that, there is that name. Click OK. Now here in the permissions list, I'm going to deny permissions for application 1 identity to this application 2 data.xml. Click OK. It gives you a warning because deny permissions will take precedence over any other permissions that are already there. So I click OK. OK, so we are explicitly denying access to application 1 identity. Okay, along the same lines, what I'm going to do for application 1, we will deny access to application 2 identity. So I'm going to select that, go to properties, security, click on the edit button, and click add, paste the name there, but this time it's going to be application 2 pool, check names, click OK, and deny access. Click apply, S on the security warning, click OK and OK. So that's it. Now let me go ahead and run. Let me close this window. Let me run the application, web application 1 once again. So when we run this, let me select the file. I'm going to select application 1 data. So this is application 1 accessing application 1 data.xml. I click read data. Very good. It should read that. But then let me select application 2 data.xml. Click read data. Look at that. I get an error. System.unauthorized exception, because we have explicitly denied access to application 2 identity for this file. That's why we get that error message. Look at that, we are able to control security based on the account that is used to execute the application code. Okay, now showing this yellow screen of death to the end users is bad. We can easily catch this exception and show a meaningful error message to the user. And how do we do that? Within the code, wrap this code in a try catch block. So I'm going to put that in a try block and a catch block. Okay, actually I have that typed just to save some time here. So obviously the exception that we have seen on that yellow screen is system.unauthorized exception. If that's the case, catch that and then the label display a message saying you do not have access to this file. If it is any other exception apart from that, we just display a message saying an unexpected error has occurred, please contact administrator. So let's save that and run it now. So this is application 1. This will be able to access only application 1 data.xml. So reading fine. Let me select application 2.xml. Read data. We get that message, you do not have access to this file. Along the same lines, if we run web application 2, as you might expect, this application now, look at that, that's the identity that is used to execute this application code, and we set, for that identity, deny access to application1 data.xml file. Okay, so choose file. If I select application1 data.xml, click that, I straight away get the error. Okay, and again, to hide this error, we can use the try catch block. Look at the exception, system.unauthorized exception. On the other hand, if I select application2 data.xml, read data, it reads fine. Okay, so in this session we have discussed about configuring different levels of security for different application pools. On this slide you can find resources for ASP.NET C# and SQL Server interview questions. That's it for today. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.